let me know when we're live. Great. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this first hybrid meeting of Monmouthshire County Council's Cabinet. I'm Richard John, I'm leader of Monmouthshire County Council, and I'll start by inviting my team to introduce themselves. And I'll start with Jane.
Good afternoon, everybody. Councillor Jane Pratt. I'm Cabinet Member for Infrastructure and Neighbourhood Services.
And Penny.
Hello, I'm Councillor Penny Jones, and my Cabinet portfolio is Health, Social Services and Safeguarding.
Thank you. And Phil.
Cabinet Member for Resources, Councillor Phil Murphy.
Hello,
Thank you.
I'm
And joining us virtually, Sarah.
My portfolio is Health, Social
Hi,
Services.
Sarah Jones,
and
Cabinet Member for the Economy and
Thank
Joint
you,
Deputy
Phil.
Leader.
Cabinet Member
Thank you.
for
And Paul?
Resources, Councillor Phil Murphy.
Yeah, Councillor Paul Pavia.
Thank you.
I'm
And
Councillor
joining us
Penny Jones,
virtually,
and, my
Sarah. Thank you. And
portfolio is
Lisa.
Health, Social
Hi, Sarah
Services
Jones,
and
Cabinet Member for the Economy
you.
and
Thank
Joint
you.
Deputy
Phil.
Leader.
Councillor Lisa Dimmock, Cabinet Member
Thank you.
for
And
Community
Paul?
Wellbeing and
Councillor
Social
Phil Murphy.
Justice.
Yeah, Councillor Paul Pavia.
Thank you.
I'm
And
Councillor
joining us
Penny Jones,
virtually,
and
Sarah. Thank you. And Lisa.
Hi, Sarah Jones, Cabinet Member for the Economy
you.
and Joint
Thank
Deputy
you.
Leader.
Councillor Lisa Dimmock, Cabinet
leaders
Member
of
for
other
Community
groups
Wellbeing and
introduce
Social
themselves.
Justice.
Councillor Paul
I
Pavia.
don't know whether you've got joining us virtually, Sarah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. And Lisa.
Hi, Sarah Jones, Cabinet Member for the Economy
you.
and Joint
Thank
Deputy
you.
Councillor
Leader.
Lisa Dimmock, Cabinet Member for Community Wellbeing and Social Justice.
Councillor Paul
I don't know
Pavia.
whether you've got joining us virtually, Sarah. Thank you. And Lisa.
Hi, Sarah Jones,
Welcome,
Cabinet
Simon.
Member for the
And
Economy
Joe.
and Joint
Joe.
Deputy
Councillor
Leader.
Lisa Dimmock, Cabinet Member
Thank
for
you
Community
very much.
Wellbeing and Social Justice.
Councillor Paul
I don't
Pavia.
know whether you've got joining us virtually, Sarah. Thank you. And Lisa.
Hi, Sarah Jones,
Welcome,
Cabinet
Simon.
Member for the
Officers, can
Economy
you share
and
meeting?
Joint
Councillor
Deputy
Lisa
Leader.
Dimmock, Cabinet Member for Community Wellbeing and Social Justice.
Councillor
I
Paul
don't
Pavia.
know whether you've got joining us virtually, Sarah. Thank you. And Lisa. First,
Sorry,
kindly
James.
welcome Simon. Officers, can you share meeting?
Councillor Lisa Dimmock, Cabinet Member for Community Wellbeing and Social Justice.
Sorry, James.
Dimmock, Cabinet Member for
Sorry, James.
Dimmock, Cabinet Member
Sorry,
Dimmock, Cabinet Member
Please. Yes, Phil.
Chair, precautionary declaration. I am a member of a committee that's made an application at the Welsh Church Act Fund. It's not got a grant, but it is mentioned in the report.
Okay, thank you, Phil. And if any other declarations of interest could be made as and when. Now, we've got a number of reports to consider today. We'll move on to item 3, and the first report is the coronavirus strategy and progress and next steps, which I will introduce. And I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to set out today at our first Cabinet meeting the administration's priorities as we begin to emerge from the pandemic. Since the pandemic began, we've done everything we possibly can here in Monmouthshire to support our residents through what's been the most extraordinary time by supporting testing and tracing, by paying businesses as quickly as humanly possible, and keeping our communities safe. Now, the plan on the page, which is attached to today's agenda, is a condensed form of our corporate plan, and it allows a detailed focus on priorities for the coming months. It's a document that's ambitious for our county. We've got a shared commitment in this Cabinet to do all we can to make Monmouthshire an even better place to live, work and spend leisure time. We want Monmouthshire to be an ambitious, enterprising county with vibrant, bustling high streets and plenty of opportunities for skilled employment. We want to encourage our residents to support our local businesses and to continue to promote Monmouthshire as a destination for staycations, particularly important this summer. The plan has a particular focus on education and social care, as well as the well-being of our local communities by supporting businesses in their economic recovery, investing in our leisure centres in Abergavenny, Caldecott and Chepstow, and promoting opportunities for children and young people. We'll continue with our plans to renew our school estate with a brand new school in Abergavenny, while supporting our schools with the impending rollout of the new curriculum and the challenges associated with awarding qualifications this summer. This is a new cabinet with a sense of urgency to get things done. We've got big ambitions for our county and ambitions to fight for more investment in the things that will make a difference to the lives of our residents. But we also understand the need to fix our roads, to improve safety for walkers, cyclists and motorists by rolling out more 20-mile-an-hour zones. And working with others to ensure better phone and broadband connectivity. We'll continue to work to decarbonise and support residents in taking positive action on climate change. This is a strategy centred on safely bringing people back together. We'll support our residents in improving their own well-being by investing in our leisure offer and maximising opportunities to enjoy our beautiful natural environment. Above all, we want Monmouthshire to be a place that everyone is proud to call home. Now, I wonder if any other Cabinet members want to contribute or comment on today's report or the plan on a page. Now, members joining remotely should be able to raise their hand. And I don't know if we've got any... Right, can I invite Councillor Jane Pratt to come in, please?
Thank you very much, Leader, and I really welcome this plan on a page, and one of the key points made there is about improving infrastructure by fixing our roads, investing in active travel, 20-mile-an-hour zones, high-speed broadband. These are all things that are so important to our residents as we come out of this pandemic. So I fully support this plan on a page. I think it's excellent.
Thank you, Jane. And Sarah, do you want to come in?
Yes, thank you, Leader. And like Jane, I fully support and endorse this plan. I think it shows us as being progressive and understanding the need of our communities in this very challenging time. I just wanted to specifically reference some of the elements around my own portfolio under economy. I think our previous aim, which was very much about supporting local businesses and our town centres, I think we've done very well in this regard. We've awarded almost £40 million worth of COVID funding grants to around 7,000 applications. I think that's really positive. And indeed, the feedback I've had myself when I've gone out and visited businesses is that we've been very successful in doing that. So that's really positive. But I think we need to be very cognizant of the fact that this is a very nervous time for businesses as we unlock society, unlock the economy. And as is outlined in 3.7, we must continue to support business and create those employment opportunities, particularly as we end the furlough scheme. We move towards the end of that scheme. Key for us now under that portfolio for me is going to be open communication with our businesses, understanding what is and isn't feasible, because we still have to operate within COVID regulations as is stipulated from government. So I'm looking forward to working with businesses on this and giving them the support that we can do. And I'm also looking forward tomorrow to taking forward our economic and growth ambition statement to Economy and Development Select Committee, because, again, we're going to keep refreshing and reminding ourselves of what is priority for businesses going forward and how we can really do our best to support them, as is outlined in this plan on a page.
Thank you. You're absolutely right. I've got every confidence, Sarah, you're going to be a fantastic champion for the local economy in Monmouthshire. Lisa Dimmock, can I bring you in, please?
Thank you, Rich. Just want to give my approval too. I'm obviously delighted to see activities such as the outdoor activities with children taking place this summer. I had the pleasure of visiting some of our destinations around the county last week with Ian Saunders, and I think our leisure centres and attractions like Tintern Abbey, Tintern railway station are going to be key in helping people re-socialise and get back out into normal life. So thank you for
Thank you. You're absolutely right. I wonder if Matthew Gatehouse wants to add anything to the points that have been made already. Hi.
Good afternoon. Matthew Gatehouse, Head of Policy. Thank you very much, Leader. No, I think to us the update that we're receiving from your initial input and that coming in from Cabinet is fairly comprehensive and gives an overview of the document. Just a reminder, as much for anyone watching the live stream or the recording back, alongside the forward-looking document which Cabinet are discussing today, is also an evaluation of the previous activity from sort of plan on a page version 3, which is something that the Cabinet have done each time you've updated the strategy, is to take the opportunity to evaluate some of the previous activity that's gone on. So for the benefit of those who are watching at home, if you access the papers online, you can see an overview of activity to date as well.
Excellent, thank you. Penny Jones, would you like to come in, please?
Yes, well, I just want to add my support, of course, but also to say that, you know, from my portfolio, especially perhaps, it's going to be a fairly bumpy road ahead, and, you know, we've got to have a large input, and we must, you know, support our staff who are going to have to cope with some hard times and a lot of extra work. So I support it fully, but, you know, hopefully we will get out the other end and we'll see the daylight. Thanks.
Thank you. Paul Pavia.
Yeah, and just to obviously endorse the report, and just to echo really what Councillor Penny Jones said, that ensuring the well-being of our staff going forward is really, really crucial over this next year. So we need to make sure that we're cognizant of that, and we're ensuring that it's continuously on our agenda, and it's a top priority. But more so, just to support all our volunteers as well. They played a huge role over this last 12-15 months. You know, I was really privileged as chair of the Economy and Development to sit in on a number of the Business Resilience Forum meetings, and our staff are exceptional in terms of what they did in terms of turning around grant aid and grant support. But a huge amount of volunteer time was put into that as well, in terms of the chamber time, business representation from the various towns. So, you know, obviously we just had volunteer week, and, you know, our communications have been really high in terms of praising our volunteers locally, but ensuring that we maximise on that social capital going forward, and support our volunteers for their well-being as well as our staff. So that's going to be critical. Thanks, Leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I can't see any further hands raised, so I'll move to the recommendations in the report. There are 3. Firstly, that Cabinet we assure ourselves that the progress made against the purpose and strategic aims that have been in place in the winter strategy, and use this to inform future activity. 2.2, that Cabinet formally endorsed the purpose and strategic aims set out in the latest strategy, which is attached as Appendix 2 to cover the summer and early autumn of 2021. And 2.3, that Cabinet commits to the development of a more fundamental medium-term planning document that can be considered in the autumn of this year. So hopefully the vote has appeared in the chat bar. Can I ask everyone to please vote now? I'm on 6. Has everyone cast their vote? If you vote a second time, it won't.
Let me just do it again.
It won't count it a second time if it didn't work first time. There we are, 7. Right, that's unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone. Let's move on then to the next item, which is a county of sanctuary. And introducing this for us is Councillor Lisa Dimmock. Lisa.
Richard, I'm proud to be bringing this report to Cabinet today to ensure that Monmouthshire plays its part in accommodating and supporting asylum seekers in the national scheme. Both UK and Welsh Government want to see an increase in the number of local authorities offering temporary accommodation whilst claims are being processed. Okay. Whilst we do not know the exact figure of how many people we will be supporting, we envisage something similar to Conwy, who accommodated 6 people. We are likely to see families and younger children who are likely to benefit positively from the opportunities available in Monmouthshire. We are likely to see that once claims are decided, though, that people will move on to other parts of the UK, although they'd be very welcome to settle here in Monmouthshire. People arriving from overseas may struggle with UK culture and experience difficulties while settling into our new communities. We are hoping we can work with local groups such as Abergavenny Town of Sanctuary, part of the umbrella organisation City of Sanctuary UK, a community group involved in the welcome and integration of refugees and asylum seekers. There are discussions ongoing with regards to funding and support services that will be required, but it's important that we understand maybe there'll be some concerns from communities and the impact it will have on public services. It's important this is addressed as our community approaches develop. Communities can grow from diversity and exposures to the ideas and cultures of those from other nations. Many of you would have read about the 2 Syrian doctors who were brothers who fled from Syria. They volunteered for the Red Cross, and during the pandemic were delivering essential items such as food and prescriptions to those shielding in their community. And one of them now works as an assistant in the mental health care home and also as an interpreter for council. So I'll move to the recommendations and ask that Cabinet approve this today. So the recommendation is that the authority formally confirms a commitment in principle in playing its part in the national scheme to offer accommodation to those seeking asylum whilst their claims are processed, becoming a county of sanctuary for those fleeing persecution. So hopefully the voting button or any questions will come up.
Thank you, Lisa. So the raise your hand function has come up in the chat bar. So any members wishing to contribute? Yes, Sarah, do you want to come in?
Yeah, I don't have a question. It was just more of a comment, just to say how pleased I am that this report has come forward and that you're bringing this forward, Lisa. It's so important that we note the role that we as a council have already played in the past in providing support to those in the greatest need. And it's absolutely right, in my opinion, that we should be joining other local authorities in being involved in this national scheme. As I say, we've got this strong track record, and there are some really excellent community initiatives out there which demonstrate what a welcoming county Monmouthshire is. And I'm just pleased to see as well the equality impact assessment, which helps address some of those concerns that we might have in ensuring that those individuals, their needs are best met when they form part of this programme. So thank you, Councillor Dimmock. I'm really pleased to support this.
Thank you. Jane Pratt.
Thank you very much, Leader. I fully support this and our participation in the scheme. It's just a question for officers, really. In the report, it does say that asylum seekers will be protected by EU immigration law. Can we just have reassurance that what the situation is with that, as we're no longer in the EU, have all those laws automatically been brought over into UK law?
Thank you. Matthew Gatehouse, this is your report. Do you want to come in on that?
Yes, thanks very much. I think there's still a fair bit to be worked through in terms of the detail around this, and we'll be having further discussions with both UK government and collaborating with neighbouring authorities through the WLGA to fully understand all that is required as part of the scheme. So today what we're looking at is a decision in principle, and then further details around the scheme will be worked up. But there will be a number of issues to be finalised and resolved before any people seeking asylum arrive in Monmouthshire. So if it's okay, Cameron, I may need to come back to you with more detail on that as the detail becomes clear.
That would be great. Thank you very much. I can't see any other hands raised. So if everyone's content, I'll just reiterate that recommendation that we formally confirm a commitment in principle to playing our part in the national scheme to offer accommodation to those seeking asylum while their claims are processed, becoming a county of sanctuary for those fleeing persecution. And can I ask members to please vote now? Hopefully the voting icon has appeared. 7 votes, that's unanimous in favour. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the next item, which is agenda item 3C, the 2020-2021 Revenue and Capital Outturn Statement. And presenting this is Councillor Phil Murphy. Phil.
Yes, thank you, Leader. And the purpose of this report is to provide members with information on the revenue and capital outturn positions of the authority based on capital slippage and reserve usage and deferment. And as you know, this report will also be considered by the select committees. It will do the rounds of them as part of their normal responsibility. It also provides an update on the financial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the Council, which is further on towards the end of the report. Amongst the recommendations are that Cabinet recognises a balanced net revenue budget position at outturn after accounting for transfers to earmarked reserves. That represents a significant improvement of some 5.15 million from the overall deficit reported at month 9. And that's primarily as a result of the receipt of 5.29 million of Welsh Government COVID-19 hardship funding that we've received since month 9. We did indicate at month 9 that the figures were subject to that grant coming through, and 5.29 million did. Receipt of significant unbudgeted Welsh Government grants. Late in the financial year, they issued additional grant monies that we've been able to capture. And of course, we were already involved in many service areas in making savings, and as a result underspends across many of those service areas as a result of the pandemic have also contributed. Members are asked to acknowledge the extent that the Welsh Government COVID-19 Hardship Fund has covered all COVID-19 related additional costs directly incurred during the financial year of 11.25 million, together with compensation for loss of income of 8.38 million. That's made an incredible difference to the authority's finances, as you can imagine. But there is a note that 85% of the service-specific budget mandated savings last year were deferred, and in fact 15% of the savings, some 734,000, has been reported as delayed or unachievable by service managers. So as I say, the 85% was delivered, but the 15% has been held up. That's basically as a result of changes in working practices and conditions brought about by the pandemic. So members are asked to endorse the strategy applied to replenish earmarked reserves, as noted within the report, to support future financial challenges and ensure financial resilience during a period of significant uncertainty as we continue to recover from the pandemic and as the delivery of our services change in light of the severely altered socio-economic landscape and as the wider policy commitments both locally and nationally begin to take shape. In taking the approach set out above, we recognise in Cabinet that the extraordinary nature of the 2021 financial year and accept that there remain significant recurring service pressures and risks in 21-22 over the medium term. We also note the unprecedented improvement in schools' reserve balances. They've been given concern for quite some time. We now have an improvement of some 3.85 million, which is shown in the appendix later in the report, and that's resulted in 15 of the 17 schools entering the year in deficit returning to a surplus balance. This reflects the significant levels of grant support from Welsh Government. But Cabinet endorses the requirement for schools to carrying significant surplus balances that are above levels guided by Welsh Government to provide investment plans setting how they intend to spend their significant surplus balances. Schools will be aware of the fact that there are balance levels that they shouldn't exceed, whilst also appreciating that the inherent structural budget defects that have led to 17 schools being in deficit at the start of the year remain and require resolution irrespective of the additional funding received. And Councillor Pavia and I will be still holding schools to account for their recovery plans, even though they are no longer in recovery, if you see what I mean, Leader. We also asked to consider the capital outturn spend of 19 million, introducing an underspend of 3.18 million, primarily due to underspending of the Capitalisation Directive budget and specific grant-related schemes, and that this subsequently releases 1.08 million of capital receipts back to reserve for future capital investment. As a result of the additional monies coming in, the original plan to capitalise some of the, to use for revenue purposes, some of the capital receipts has been able to be reversed. There's also capital slippage requests of some 49.92 million that are currently being examined. So if we look at the key issues, since entering 2020, the Council has faced significant and unprecedented challenges, notably the flood response and recovery. In parallel to this, we faced the hugely challenging budget round, which saw a significant set of service pressures needing to be considered and accommodated within the budget, notably pressures within children's services, the 2.75% pay award being much higher than the 1% we originally assumed, pressures remaining within the passenger transport unit, pressures in waste and recycling, and pressures relating to civil parking enforcement. There was a shortfall against additional commercial income targets because of various schemes had to be held up. And as a result of the late receipt of the final settlement from Welsh Government and the disappointment of there being no funding floor introduced, the remaining efficiency savings that were left to be identified were left within during the financial year. So all the above pressures continue to draw significantly on the Council's resources, but that said, by month 9, the previously reported non-COVID-19 figure-related overspend had moved to a forecast of 142,000, as I said earlier. And since month 9, we've had the benefit of a further 5.29 million of Welsh Government COVID hardship funding, as I said earlier, and that has compensated the Council to support its enhanced cost of service delivery and the loss of income as a direct result of the COVID-19 impact. Further to this, a number of Welsh Government funding announcements were made late in the financial year that have resulted in additional specific revenue grant awards related to the continuing COVID-19 impact and also awards specific to service area pressures. These grant awards have had a direct impact in improving the revenue outturn position by offsetting core funding requirements. So as I mentioned earlier, we have taken the opportunity to revisit the reserves to ensure that the surplus is distributed in such a way as to compensate as much as possible for any reduction in the revenue support grant in the next budget round. As always, there's an awful lot of detail in this report, Leader, so I'll stop there to see if anybody's got any questions.
Thank you very much, Phil. Well, can I thank you for your stewardship this year? It's been the most extraordinary year, hasn't it? But thank you very much for what you've been doing. The raise hand function is in the chat bar. I wonder if Peter Davis, the author of the report, would like to add anything to what Phil has said.
Thank you very much, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Murphy, for running us through the report. I guess, and I think as I commented at the pre-briefing, all the thanks really need to be passed through to Jonathan Davis, who's been the main contributor into the report, and huge thanks to Jonathan, to the finance teams for all the work that they've gone and done in bringing this together, under significant pressure, which has been the case for the year. And bearing in mind there amidst accounts closure at the same time. The only other point is a point to reinforce, just in terms of some of the risks that we do carry through from out and into next year, predominantly around, I guess, the continued risk that COVID sense to us and our finances. Cabinet will, of course, understand, aware of the fact that the Welsh Government has only committed funding through the COVID Hardship Fund until the end of September. We still have both uncertainty and, some significant risk that presents beyond the end of September, and particularly with, obviously, income losses that we're facing through, for example, leisure centres, car parking, etc., and the list goes on. So we'll continue to work through the WJ with Welsh Government directly, and I'm sure, Leader, you will separately be doing that through your channels and with Cabinet colleagues to obviously impress on Welsh Government that funding is brought forward and that looks to mitigate and eliminate that risk and where it presents. But thank you, Leader. That's all I've got to say.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Thank you. And those are issues we'll certainly be following up in our discussions with our members of the Senate. Thank you. So I can't see any raised hands. So I'll move to the recommendations, and I'll summarise these just for the benefit of anyone watching in. So the recommendations are, and we'll vote on these on block. 2.1, that we recognise a balanced net revenue budget position at outturn after accounting for transfers to earmarked reserves that represents a significant improvement of £5.15 million from what was reported at month 9. 2.2, that we acknowledge the extent to which the Welsh Government's COVID-19 Hardship Fund has covered costs directly incurred during the financial year, together with compensation for loss of income. 2.3, that we note the 85% delivery of service-specific budgeted mandated savings as set out in Appendix 2. 2.4, that we endorse the strategy applied to replenish earmarked reserves to support future financial challenges and to ensure financial resilience. 2.5, that we recognise the extraordinary nature of the 2021 financial year and accept that there remain significant recurring pressures and risks in this financial year and over the medium term. 2.6, that we note the unprecedented improvement in school reserve balances of 3.85 million, as Councillor Murphy said. That's set out in Appendix 1, and that, of course, resulted in 15 of the 17 schools entering the year in a deficit, returning to a surplus balance. Recommendation 2.7 is that we endorse the requirement for schools carrying significant surplus balances to provide investment plans setting out how they intend to spend their significant surplus balances. And 2.8, that we consider the capital outturn spend of 19 million. And 2.9, that members note the slippage requests of just under £50 million is listed in Appendix 5, and accept that officers will make a further assessment of the justification for scheme slippage and make recommendations back to us for final approval in future. So those are the recommendations. Can I ask everyone to vote now, please? Thank you very much. So that's 7 votes in favour of that report. Thank you. So the next report is item 3D and UK Government funding opportunities, Levelling Up Fund and Community Renewal Fund. And I'm really excited to be able to take part in these funding rounds. We're very clear that we want to seize every opportunity to invest, to improve our residents' well-being, and strengthen our local economy. And we now have a number of opportunities to do that, working in partnership with the UK Government's Levelling Up agenda. So the UK Government has so far announced 2 strategic investment programmes, the UK Community Renewal Fund and the Levelling Up Fund. Now, firstly, the Community Renewal Fund is a precursor to the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, which launches in 2022 as a successor to the EU structural funds. The UK Government is looking for schemes which can be piloted in this financial year to support people and communities most in need. Projects need to support community renewal and demonstrate a contribution to net zero carbon. Now, we've received 20 applications from voluntary and community groups, businesses and other local groups together totalling around £4.2 million. These are currently being assessed and prioritised, and we can submit bids by the 18th of June up to a maximum of £3 million. We have had bids in the areas of green technology, art, sustainable food development, leisure, heritage and digital marketing. So those will be considered in the coming days. Now, the second investment programme is the Levelling Up Fund, £4.8 billion, money which is available until March 2025 to invest in infrastructure which improves daily life, including town centres and high streets, local transport, as well as investment in leisure and heritage facilities. The fund will be prioritised to areas designated as being in greater need of levelling up, but also prioritised towards projects which are shovel-ready, those schemes that can begin work within this financial year. Now, each bid can total up to £20 million, and each local authority can submit one bid per parliamentary constituency. So in Monmouthshire, we can submit a bid in Newport East and a bid in Monmouth. There's a minimum match funding requirement of 10%, and bids must be submitted by Friday the 18th of June, and we would expect a decision on successful bids by the early autumn. All funding must be spent by March 2025, and there'll be further bidding rounds in future years. Now, our two bids are still in development ahead of the submission date of a week on Friday. But what I can tell you is that our bid in Caldecott includes a complete refurbishment of the leisure centre, as per plans we've discussed previously, with a better pool and viewing area, a changing village, open plan cafe and soft play, spa facilities, new gym equipment, a larger fitness suite and spin studio. Now, this would be a massive investment in the well-being of residents in the south of Monmouthshire, and the bid would also include new active travel routes and modernisation of the town centre in Caldecott, with the intention of providing a modern and attractive development at the heart of the town centre. Our Monmouth bid proposes improvements to the Shire Hall as a tourism venue, coupled with community use and the redevelopment of the public realm of the town, Monnow Street and Blestium Street. A third element would be the redevelopment of the Market Hall to support business with retail startup units, meeting places and agile working. And we're really grateful to both David Davis and Jessica Morden for their engagement, and we look forward to continuing to work with them as these bids are finalised in the coming days. The third aspect of the Levelling Up Fund is in terms of transport, and we look forward to working with neighbouring authorities in the coming months on submitting a transport bid in the future. So that's the Levelling Up Fund in a nutshell. The raise hand function is on your screens, colleagues. So if anyone wishes to contribute, please raise your hand now. Can I firstly invite Councillor Lisa Dimmock to come in, please?
Thank you, Rich. This is really exciting. Definitely welcome this Levelling Up Fund, especially for Newport East. Like you say, this is huge investment for residents in the Sevenside area, and also really excited about the agile working space in the Market Hall. So you've got my approval. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Sarah Jones.
Thanks, Rich. I just wanted to touch on from an economy perspective, because I'm really excited by the opportunity for us to be able to bid in to this fund, because we've got a massive challenge in our town centres, and that's not something new. That was something that existed prior to COVID, but clearly changing in consumer behaviour and changing demographics, it's all accelerated that change that we're seeing in our town centres. So this fund provides us with a unique opportunity. As I say, we know investment in bricks and mortar was always a challenge prior to the pandemic. We've got too much space. So how can we make this fund work for us and work for the needs of our community better through our town centres? And for me personally, it's very simple. It's not just about creating places which are for retail use or leisure use. It's about creating places where people want to spend their time. And so much of the conversation going forward has to be about how we make town centres as multifaceted as possible, but at the same time that they have that unique sense of their own offer, if you like. So I think these two bids, particularly the Caldecott bid and the Monmouth bid, are very representative of two very different town centres, and they're very dynamic in nature because of that. And as such, the applications that we've put into the Levelling Up Fund, which we will put in, hopefully, will be bespoke to the needs of those two town centres. They're not going to be a one-size-fits-all approach to town centre regeneration. And, I think someone mentioned earlier, we've got the Monmouthshire Business Resilience Forum. We've been able to draw on their experiences, understand the challenges of our town centres, and really help use that to inform the bids that we're putting forward. As you say, the Monmouth bid for me, from an economy perspective, is about ensuring we catch the town before it falls. It's about creating a visitor economy and a destination for the purpose of this bid. It's our gateway to the county, and it's going to be all about improving public amenity, better using our cultural assets, and helping to serve the audience as best that we can. When it comes to the Caldecott one, again, I'm really excited about the project that we're putting forward. We know we've already delivered a lot of elements of town centre regeneration through the Transforming Town Fund, formerly the TRI funding. And I think there's a huge opportunity here, as you've mentioned, between town and the leisure offer. That's going to be huge for Caldecott, and connecting those cultural and leisure assets to the town centre will really help improve the offer there. And again, we've got a really strong business community there with some really strong champions for Caldecott, and I think it's really important we continue to listen to their needs, and I'm sure that's being reflected as part of the bids that will be put forward. So just briefly then, just to say, from an economic regeneration perspective, I think these bids are an excellent opportunity for us to really differentiate ourselves, and if we are successful, they're going to provide a unique opportunity to help support our town centres, making them vibrant and viable in the long term.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Thank you. And can I bring in Councillor Paul Pavia, please?
Yeah, obviously, just echo what my cabinet colleagues have said about the bids. They're two exciting opportunities, and I think, as you alluded to, these were opportunities that were already in the planning stage, and we were looking at seriously looking at some of the elements of these ourselves as a council, so they were even ready. I suppose for the other parts of the county, it's just getting reassurance really that for future bids that we can work with the respective communities. I know from my perspective as a Chepstow member, the Chepstow Town Council is developing its own place plan, and there'll be opportunities there to sort of collaborate with the community on some of those potential projects. And I know we haven't discussed as a council and as individual council members some recommendations that are going to fall out of the WellTag study. The transport element around Chepstow is going to be really important. So it's just to get some assurance really that particularly on the transport side of things, that there will be opportunities for future opportunities for the parts of the county to bid in for other tranches in other financial years. Thanks, Peter.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, and it is a shame that the Chepstow bypass isn't a shovel-ready scheme at the moment. But we'll be doing all we can, working with our colleagues to ensure that is a shovel-ready scheme at some point in the future. And I mean, the Chepstow bypass would have massive benefits for not just the town of Chepstow, but the wider community as well. Francis O'Brien, I know your team have been doing a lot of work on these bids and continue to do so. Are there any points you'd like to add?
Thank you, Leader. Afternoon, Cabinet. Francis O'Brien, the Chief Officer for Enterprise. With regards to the bids that are going in next Friday, we are up against a very tight timescale to complete the bids to the standards that are required for UK government. But we think that these are very good opportunities that we do not want to miss. And the opportunity to improve both the facilities in Monmouth and Caldecott through capital investment will be a fantastic opportunity, bringing in nearly £32 million worth of investment if we are successful. The Community Renewal Fund, likewise, is an opportunity for us to trial some innovative projects in advance of the shared prosperity funding structure being announced. And some of the projects that we're putting forward for this Community Renewal Fund are exciting, and we are very pleased with the quality of bids that have come forward from the community voluntary organisations, and also some internal departments have also looked to apply for funding. So we welcome the opportunity to bid into the UK government funding opportunities, and we can start to see that the shape of the funding landscape is changing, and this is something that we need to adapt and be ready for in future years, so that we do have good quality projects that are ready for submission when opportunities arise. Thank you, Leader.
Fab, thank you. Well, can I again thank you and your team for all the work they've been doing. I know they've really been pulling out the stops to meet this tight deadline of next week, but we've got some really fantastic opportunities there. So thank you for what officers are doing. So let me reiterate the recommendation then before we proceed to a vote, which is simply to endorse the strategic direction of travel as set out in the report, and to note the bid criteria and deadlines which define the shape of the projects that are eligible for submission. So the vote has appeared in the chat bar, and can I ask members to cast your votes now, please? And that's unanimous, 7 votes in favour. Thank you very much. We'll now move to item 3E, which is Shire Hall and Monmouth Museum. And Councillor Lisa Dimmock is going to talk us through this report, please.
Thank you, Rich. So this is my last report today to bring to Cabinet. It's the exciting project potentially featuring a new cultural destination at Shire Hall, Monmouth. Some changes would have to be made to the entrance to make it more inviting. People say that they do not realise it's a public open space, so this would need new signage and an increase in the foyer size. It would also be creating more learning spaces. The feasibility study indicates the building is suitable for museum use and meets modern standards. There has been some alternative buildings suggested by members of the public, but these are not in MomCC's ownership. One being 20 Mono Street, which is a derelict listed building next to Lloyds Bank. It's been subject to action by our planning heritage team to try and secure its future, but it's very poor structurally in condition, and as it has private ownership. The second one was Great Castle House. It's the headquarters of the Monmouthshire Royal Engineers Militia next to Monmouth Castle, assessed by the lane at the side of Iceland from Agincourt Square. It also houses the Regimental Museum. When we had a meeting with the History Society, it was suggested that the Army may have long-term plans to vacate this building, but we haven't been able to confirm that. It does reduce the community space in areas as it will be taken up by displays. It will also help boost visitor numbers to Shire Hall, which has seen a decline in the visitor numbers over recent years. It will also provide learning opportunities, as I said earlier, and it will encourage visitors to get more social once permitted, and it will offer a unique host for events. So I'll leave it to you to go for the questions, and I'll leave it to you to do the recommendations rather than taking over like I did in my last paper. Sorry, Leader.
Thank you very much. The raise hand facility is in the chat bar if members would like to contribute. But thank you, Lisa. Really pleased to see this report and the benefits this is going to bring to Monmouth. Councillor Phil Murphy, do you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. And this is a very good opportunity to make a lot more of Shire Hall. We did try all sorts of things that have been sort of successful in part, others haven't been so successful. It also gives us the opportunity of making much more of the Market Hall facility when it's freed up. So I think this is the right move. I'm aware that it's not universally popular, but I think it will turn out to be the right move. It will be a benefit to the museum service, benefit to the Shire Hall, and benefit to the use of the market building. So I'm fully in support.
Thank you. And Councillor Jane Pratt.
Thank you very much, Leader, and thank you to Councillor Dimmock. I really support this, and I mean Shire Hall has such a rich and colourful history, and it really is the right place to house these wonderful objects and showcase the history of Monmouth and our story. I also am pleased to see that this building is far better than where the museum is currently, because it does have lift access, which is much better. It means that everybody will be able to enjoy the museum. So, and once they've been into the museum, they'll be able to come out and enjoy the lovely restaurants and cafes and shops that are right there. So it really will help, I think, to improve the visitor numbers to Monmouth in general. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. I wonder if Ian Saunders, the author of this report, would like to add any points to what's already been said. Ian.
Thank you, Leader. And like Matt Gatehouse, Ian Saunders, Chief Operating Officer from On Life. Like Matt Gatehouse, whilst I am on the authorage, Matthew Lewis and Tracy Thomas put most of the hard work in. So, if probably better if they want to say anything. But I'd like to thank Councillor Dimmock for the way she presented the report. I think it's very advantageous for both the Shire Hall and potential for Market Hall as well. So it's all positive. And I know some people have got their reservations, but I can only recommend that we move forward with it. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Matthew Lewis and Tracy Thomas, do either of you want to add any additional points?
Thank you, Leader. Matthew Lewis, I'm Environment and Culture Manager from On Life. Only just to draw attention to the to the recommendations in terms of the phasing. I think it's probably just important that we note that we're proposing as the recommendations an initial phase, and to utilise that initial phase as a means of carrying out public consultation on the details of what we would then be seeking funding, either hopefully through the Levelling Up Fund, but if that's not successful, through other funding applications for the major change which would involve the alterations to the building. So that was all just to draw attention to the two elements.
Fab, thank you very much. Right, well, I'll move us now to the recommendations, which are to note the progress in undertaking a feasibility study to establish a new cultural offer at the Shire Hall, incorporating the Monmouth Museum, and a review of museum collection storage. 2.2, to approve the establishment of an initial phase within the Shire Hall and to confirm that Monmouth Museum will not reopen in the Market Hall. 2.3, to reopen key areas of the Shire Hall for public use, subject to ongoing regulations and any restrictions required to allow the completion of the Phase 1 provision incorporating temporary museum displays. 2.4, that we recommend to full council a £250,000 contribution from capital receipts to facilitate the initial phase of works, and that in turn will also provide a match funding contribution to the Levelling Up Fund bid for Monmouth that would, if successful, enable the longer term vision to be achieved. And finally, 2.5, that future reports presented to us will be presented to us as the long-term proposals for Shire Hall, Monmouth and for museum collection storage are further developed. So the vote has appeared in the chat bar, and please vote now, colleagues. Thank you very much. That's 7 votes in favour. That's unanimous. Thank you. Can I thank Lisa, Ian, Matthew and Tracy for their work on that report. And we'll now move to item 3F, which is digital and data. And this is being presented by Councillor Phil Murphy.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. And this is a report which is to do with recognising the amount of progress made by the Digital Design and Innovation team, but to strengthen its information and governance arrangements and broaden the remit of the existing performance team to include data analytics. And it seeks approval for the strategic direction that will be taken by these repurposed teams as they utilise investment agreed as part of the 2021-22 budget process to transform how we meet the needs and achieve our purpose beyond the pandemic and into the next stage of the development of our organisation and county. As in the coming years, the Council will need to adjust its delivery to fit the realities of a post-COVID landscape. This challenge sits alongside the ambitious commitments of the Council to address deep-rooted inequalities within our society through the social justice agenda and tackling climate change through a commitment to decarbonisation alongside long-standing policy priorities of education and support for vulnerable children and adults. This provides a stimulus for innovation and radical service transformation. We've already made good progress with digital transformation. The ability of our organisation to fully unlock the potential of these key assets will be integral to our viability and sustainability. But to do this, we must ensure that these areas are sufficiently interconnected and have the capacity and expertise to deliver on this ambitious agenda. We in Cabinet have already agreed to set aside 300,000 for the development of this work in the 21-22 budget, and this paper is providing further detail on how that funding will be used. So if we look at enhancing data capacity and capability, the financial straits which we operate in mean that the data analysts within the performance team are presently focused almost entirely on statutory performance reporting. This leaves little scope to engage in the type of work that is needed to shape preventative services, create operational efficiencies, and deliver data-led solutions that will help achieve the purpose and long-term policy priorities of the Council. We actually own or have access to millions of items and of data, and these are a strategic asset, but only if we use them constructively. So we propose to unlock this potential, beginning in two specific areas: getting better at the basics, applying data science techniques, and our networks and geography mean that we are well placed to access development opportunities. We'll identify opportunities for existing staff within the performance team and across the wider organisation to enhance skill levels and take our capabilities to the next level. An annual development budget of 15,000 will be created to cover staff training and software licenses. So the investment made by the Council will see the creation of 3 new posts, a trainee data officer, a new performance officer post, and the post of data scientist being created, but will be held vacant for up to 12 months while the groundwork is done to identify and define the problems and opportunities we want the post holder to focus on. There will be some adjustments to existing roles which will take on additional responsibilities. Finally, the changes will also see the Geographic Information Service, GIS function, transferred to the team, which will bring additional expertise and synergies with existing work. And on realigning the Digital and Data Programme Office, that was established 4 years ago to build digital and information capabilities across MCC. The team has grown in its expertise and scope and has taken on the interrelated functions of data protection, freedom of information governance, and schools' digital services. The pandemic has vastly changed the way we work, with an increased need for digital networking processes and file management and flexible working practices. So the digital design team will operate across the whole Council, with each team member working with specific service areas, developing knowledge and skills of the way each service operates. So in addition to the basic operational improvement, the digital design team need to keep one step ahead of future digital technologies and advancements in artificial intelligence, robotic process automation. The current team doesn't have the resource to prototype and trial innovative advancements in technology and digital, and will stand still, or even worse, fall behind if we don't address this gap. So in order to plug that gap, we will add 2 digital design trainees to the team that can develop and grow in this niche and very new market. It's also proposed that the temporary post of project manager is maintained to complete the very large overarching digital projects within the roadmap of the digital design team. So again, Leader, I don't want to reiterate the whole of this report, but it signifies a considerable refocusing of these teams and an opportunity to considerably enhance our competency in these areas. I know it's increasing staffing, but that will lead, I'm absolutely certain, to considerable savings as we become a lot more efficient as a result of this move. So thank you, Leader.
That's excellent. Thank you, Phil. The raise your hand function has appeared in the chat bar if any colleagues would like to contribute. Yes, can I bring in Jane Pratt, please?
Thank you very much, Leader, and I really support this. I mean, it's an excellent paper, and also the workshop that was held for members was really good too, so thank you. I'm very impressed with the Office's strategic aims in this area for the future and how we can make the most of all the information that's now available to us. And in my own area regarding highways, I think this digital design team will really ensure that we are as agile and efficient as we can be, which can only help our service delivery and also our carbon footprint. So as Councillor Murphy has said, this investment really, it is quite small in the larger scheme of things when you think about how much money we're going to save as a result of all the work that can be done. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Sarah Jones.
Thank you. And yeah, like Jane, I fully welcome this document and this approach, because it's absolutely the right thing to be doing in a post-COVID world. As we see that transformation, that digital transformation, and the opportunities that will come out of that, but it also brings with it threats. So cybersecurity, we know, is an increased prevalence, particularly as we move into this digital, more increased digital world, if you like. So I just wondered, the question would be, how will this repurposed team focus on cybersecurity, and how will it be reflected as part of the restructure?
Thank you. Phil, do you want to come back on that?
Yeah, it's actually covered by the latter section that I was talking about, Sean Haywood's section, along with the security service we collaboratively buy into, and alongside the work that we do with the SRS. We're bringing the report specifically back to this to Audit Committee in July to provide assurances alongside the Audit All Wales report on cyber resilience. And I might add that there is a seminar, or a session is being arranged on cybersecurity on the leaders or the managers' weekly Q&A session next Wednesday. So it's very much at the forefront of our activities, and will be dealt with by Sean Haywood's team.
Excellent, thank you. I wonder if the authors of the report, Matthew Gatehouse or Sean Haywood, would like to add any points to what's already been said.
Yeah, thank you, Leader, and yeah, thank you, Councillor Murphy, for a very comprehensive overview of the work. Again, I don't think there's a huge amount that we can add that will sort of generate further value, and I think, really it's from the officer perspective to thank Cabinet and Council for the investment. As a local authority, I think Monmouthshire, we've been punching above our weight in this area for some time with a relatively small team, particularly in the world of digital, what's gone into that space, and achieved a huge amount to date. And I think this additional investment, relatively small in the scheme of things, we have to recognise that every penny spent in one area is an opportunity forgone in another. But we really feel that what this gives us the opportunity to do is stretch these areas even further, invest in preventative services, and enable people and communities to self-serve, which ultimately benefits everyone. So thanks for the opportunity to bring this forward, and for the investment to enable us to do that.
Excellent, thank you very much. Right, well, colleagues, I'll reiterate the recommendations then, which are to approve the direction of travel set out, which will enable the Council to build on successes to date and move at greater pace to achieve service transformation in line with the strategic direction set out in the corporate plan. and the costs to implement the proposals will be funded through a budget of £300,000 incorporated in the 2021-22 budget and medium-term financial plan, with the remainder being met from existing service budgets. Can I ask colleagues to all vote now, please, on those two recommendations? And that's unanimous. That's 7 votes all in favour of that. Thank you very much. We'll now move to the final report of the day, which is item 3G, which is the Welsh Church Fund Working Group. And presenting that for us is Councillor Phil Murphy.
I'm not sure I can, as I'm declaring an interest. Didn't think of that earlier on.
Shall I set out the proposals?
It's only it's only recommending the recommendations of the committee that's dealt with it. As I've declared an interest, I better back off this one.
No, quite right. So there were 2 meetings of the Welsh Church Fund Working Group, and there are a number of recommendations that have been proposed. I'll talk us through them, and they are £1,000 for Usk in Bloom to assist with enhancements to the public area, to purchase some large planters for Usk Town. The second is for Caerwent Historic Trust, who've been awarded £500 to assist in supporting some community events to promote a long-term understanding of the historic area. The third is Abergavenny Community Trust, who've been awarded £2,900 to support a new and level footpath and to assist access to this community asset. The fourth item has been deferred, so this is St Mary's Church in Llanfair-Disgoed, who put in a request for £1,000 of funding to improve lighting in the church. And then at the second meeting, there were 2 recommendations from that meeting. The first is £1,000 was awarded to Chepstow Bowling Club to support this community sport group, promoting health and well-being. And the final dispersal of funds is St Mary's Catholic Church in Monmouth, who put in a request of £5,000 for some redevelopment work, and they've been awarded £2,000 to support that refurbishment. So I can't see any hands raised. So in summary, we're looking at £1,000 awarded to Usk in Bloom, £500 to Caerwent Historic Trust, £2,900 to Abergavenny Community Trust, £1,000 to Chepstow Bowling Club, and £2,000 to St Mary's Catholic Church in Monmouth from the Welsh Church Fund. And can I ask members to vote now, please, on those recommendations? Thank you all very much. So that's unanimous in favour of those recommendations. And that brings us to the end of today's agenda and our first hybrid cabinet meeting. Can I thank members of the public who've been watching in either live or pre-recorded? Thank you very much for your interest. Can I thank members and officers for all the work that's gone into those reports we've considered today, as well as your contributions to today's meeting. Thank you all very much. And we look forward to seeing you at our next meeting, which is Wednesday, the 7th of July at 3 o'clock. So look forward to seeing you all then. Thank you very much and good afternoon.